Peace, party people. Welcome back to my Killa Tape At, episode 7. On the solo tip today, no guests. We're going to get into my top 10 best MCU movies. Yup, I do it here. Let's talk about MOP and 90s hip hop and all the misogyny and violence that's in there. Talk about the last issue of Invincible, so I really geek out. Also bring back segments like how to approach women and health. So definitely welcome back, party people. Wakanda forever.
I like the rhymes.
All of us are born with the miraculous ability to determine the direction from which sounds approach us.
Let us venture into new and uncharted land.
People that shook up, when I'm introduced as God.
You got that good hair, too.
You're the first one out there with a dashiki talking that crap.
It's like a jungle sometimes, it makes me wonder how I keep from going under. It's like a jungle sometimes, it makes me wonder how I keep from going under.
I pull up, hop out, air out, made it look sexy. They won't take me out my element. Nah, take me out my element.
For this episode, I found this jewel, man. This is from a company called Heavy Seas. And this one is called Siren Noir. Actually, Siren Noir. It's an imperial style brew with chocolate and aged in bourbon barrels. It's a very thick stout. You can taste the chocolate and you could actually taste that hint of bourbon. It's dope, man. This is dope. Hey, yo, why didn't y'all tell me that Homeboy Salmon had a new joint out? Yeah, it's been almost a year, but I just found this out, man. Like, come on, party people. You know I'm a big fan. What's up with that? Oftentimes on the Twitters and on the IG, you hear the word Hotep, Hoteps, Hotepian used. I'm going to kind of give you a definition of it. First of all, I come from that particular community. It's not used as a derogatory term to describe people from the conscious community. Anybody that's into black consciousness, comedic science, even black Israelites. The people are, Hebrew Israelites. I mean, when I say black Hebrew, what is that? The black Israelites. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, Hotep actually is a Kemetic word, and Kemet is actually the name of Egypt. And people spell it two ways, Kemet or KMT without the vowels. And Hotep means peace unto you. I can't really tell you who actually started using the term to describe that particular group of people. And usually they're people of African descent, black folks from all stripes, right? And ways of life. I can't tell you who started it, but I know I started hearing that word thrown around in that fashion about 3 years ago. So I know there's a video out now. Well, it came out like 2-3 years ago of someone commenting derailing. What's they called? Derailing or writing? Deriding, one of those words, right? Hoteps. So yeah. And usually when people talk about Hoteps, they use it to describe people like Dr. Umar Johnson. The guy that did the, what's the other guy that did the Hidden Colors videos? What's his name? Tariq Nasheed, that guy. Tariq Nasheed, that guy. Anyway, I try not to mention those guys' names. I already talked about them enough. But I'm kind of like torn because, again, I come from that community. Really, that's where I sharpen my skills, speaking and doing research and everything. But so I'm kind of lost. And I used to say Hotep when we greeted each other. We used to say Hotep, peace be unto you. And Shem Hotep, may you go in peace. So if you hear that word thrown around, that's what they mean from that word. I know we talked about Black Panther ad nauseum, and I know I talked about this last week. The week before, but two things. Number one, a lot of people who are like super woke, I guess. They're like gigantic woke, right? They like woke on steroids, right? They always got to find a problem with something. But I know they kept comparing it to, it was like, why didn't we have the same response to Nate Parker's Birth of a Nation? And that needs to be discussed, right? Like, we need to talk about that. That's crazy, right? This needs to be discussed. We need to talk about that. Anyway, redundant. But anyway, but it's like, I'm going to just say one thing. Like, I remember when Birth of a Nation came out, and I remember bringing it up, even outside of the rape allegations, right? Because I think the rape allegations, the rape accusations, right? They did hurt Nate Parker at the box office, but again, black women came out and supported that movie as much as they could. That being said, I don't think that's what hurt the movie, though. And I know there's no way for me to prove it. But I remember when that movie came out, around that time, when I asked somebody that was going to go see that movie and I told them what it was about, the first thing most people told me, particularly those that were super woke now, particularly those that are right now, hating on Black Panther, they were like, I'm tired of slave movies. I'm tired of slave movies. I'm tired of slave movies. That's what I heard from a lot of people. Because I know at the time, 12 Years a Slave had just come out, won a bunch of awards. There was a couple other things that were out that dealt with slavery. And people were like, we didn't want to see that. And actually, what I remember people saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, I remember people saying, I'd rather see a movie that shows us being triumphant, that doesn't have anything to do with slavery. I want to see us in a majestic form. That's what I heard, particularly from those that were like, woke on steroids. That's what I heard from them. So I don't know. Maybe they didn't say it, but that's what I heard. That was the sentiment at the time. And I think people were just fatigued and they didn't want to see it. So I think that's what was the biggest factor. And then when you see, as comparing it to Black Panther, at the same time, it didn't have the same budget, the same promotion. It didn't have the same hype. Plus, he was featured in another Marvel Cinematic Universe film, and people really, really enjoyed it. And that's one of the reasons why Marvel greenlit that movie. So I think, it's apples and oranges, and we shouldn't make that comparison. So I think that needs to be discussed. But the other day, I was hanging out with some friends, again, somebody that was on woke on steroids, right? And they said that it was too Disney. And I was like, really? Because I kind of feel like, and I know what they were trying to apply, because like when I think of Disney, I think of like, The Lion King and all that stuff. And like those movies, like I like The Lion King, I like Finding Nemo, I like those things, right? But they have a particular formula, right? They have a particular formula. Actually, that formula is kind of like Joseph Campbell's formula. Joseph Campbell is the guy that inspired George Lucas to do Star Wars. He was one of his professors, and he wrote a book called The Hero with a Thousand Faces. Very good book. I should definitely review that one. But anyway, in it, he actually talks about how all mythology, all stories that are found in mythology, they all follow a particular formula of a hero. It's real interesting. And actually, if you take the table of contents of Joseph Campbell's book and you take the original trilogy of Star Wars, it's literally an outline, right? But he says, Joseph Campbell said this is how it is. So like, I can see why they would say that, it's Disney-esque, but it's not really Disney-esque. It's Campbellian. Well, it's not even Joseph Campbell. Joseph Campbell just outlined how mythologies are written and discussed and passed down. So it's not really Disneyan, but he's trying to say that it's formulaic. And I didn't see that. I really didn't see it. There's so many different things that like if I didn't know it was a Disney movie, I wouldn't have thought it was a Disney movie unless somebody told me, right? That's how I see it. But I think like my response to him was Killmonger got stabbed through the solar plexus. I don't see how that's a Disney movie. I'm gonna leave it at that. Yo, shout out to the homie Stephanie from that Dope Science Show. I made a big mistake. I said that Black Panther #1, where they talk about going to the planet Bast, or Bast, whichever one you want to use. I said it was coming out in March, I think March 9th. I was actually wrong. It's coming out May 9th. So I want to apologize for anybody that went looking for that. And it also goes again for Avengers #1, where they deal with the Avengers from 1 million BC. I know, it's crazy, right? 1 million BC. Anyway, I apologize for that misinformation. I just want to let y'all know that I'm trying to fix that and correct that. Doesn't mean you're going to get a free copy from me, though. Peace.
I think Prince should run first.
Yo, man, it's crazy, man. Just wanted to say that as of this recording, which is Tuesday morning, we learned that Craig Mack, dope hip hop MC, passed away of heart failure on Monday night, South Carolina. So, yo, this definitely goes out to him. Yo, mad love. Also, this one goes out to the young man, Michael Cook, who was murdered. He was found dead in the alley here in Dayton, Ohio. So, definitely, want to pour some for them. And, when you get a chance, give them a moment of silence. Peace. Also, I forgot to mention that I did just turn 45 a couple weeks ago, March 3rd, actually. And I just want to talk about, I was listening to MOP, Mash Out Posse. Huge fan of MOP. Brooklyn's finest, all the way, right? Loved them, right? Anyway, I had a discussion with some of my contemporaries, some of my peers, and they were talking about how the music of today, meaning hip-hop music, right? When they talk about music or they want to call it rap or whatever, to them it's like ultra violent and mad ignorant and wild, and they about drugs and et cetera, and they lament how it's not as dope as it was from back in the day. Now, when we talk about dope or whack, that's like a different, that's subjective, right? But one thing I notice is that a lot of us are quick to say that the music that's coming out today, again, hip hop music, is way more ignorant than it was when we were younger. I disagree with that. And the best example I can give you is the Mash Out Posse. Look at How About Some Hardcore, right? How about some hardcore? Yeah, we like it raw, which kind of sounds homoerotic for a second when you think about it. But nonetheless, it's still a dope song. And Firing Squad, all the songs they put out is literally about murdering people and burying them. I think listening to an entire MOP album, you probably hear about at least 160 something references to murder, but I'm not counting. Who's counting, right? So I think we got to be real careful when we do that. I know nostalgia is a drug, because a lot of times when we get nostalgic, we tend to forget some of the stuff we did when we were younger. Look, people be like, oh, it's mad misogynistic now. I'm like, actually, back in our day, it was mad misogynistic. Even Biggie Smalls, who we consider one of the best MCs ever. I don't, and we've already talked about that. Even he said it's about money, clothes, and hoes. So, come on, ladies and gentlemen, let's be real, let's be frank, let's look ourselves in the mirror and talk about it, right? Let's be real, because I know there's some things that, some hip hop songs that I never played around my kids because it was mad ignorant, right? Even though I loved it. Shout out to Thurston Howard III, right? I can go on and on about the people that we listen to, that we shaked our butts to, that we threw when they threw it on at parties, people went buck wild, right? It's like, come on, party people. Let's be real here. Let's keep it real. Word. One thing about being an atheist is that a lot of people assume that since now you don't believe in God, that you don't have what's called a moral compass, right? Where does your morality come from, right? And that's a really good question. That's a really good question. But it's funny because when you look at different beliefs, don't get me wrong, belief systems, right? We learned that 2/3 of, belief systems usually agree on everything. Like, for example, murder, et cetera, et cetera. Now, and I'm trying to answer this question. This is how I see it. And this is actually truth, right? We all know that humans, Homo sapiens, right? They had a morality before they began believing in the higher power, right? There was certain things. We know that evolution has taught us that the reason why Homo sapiens survive is because they realized that cooperation was a better form of survival. So, the idea that there was survival of the fittest, that's actually not actually, what's my man's name? I forgot his name. Anyway, we learned that humans, when they learn how to cooperate, they survive those extinction level events that almost wiped out humanity. So we learned that really there's strength in cooperation. There's strength in those individuals and groups of people that decide that, peace is better than going to war over a deer, right? So we shouldn't say survival of the fittest. We should say, those who knew that the power of negotiation and cooperation is tantamount to our survival. And this is something that we could prove to this day. That being said, when you look at, particularly the monotheistic religions, right, we kind of see that there's this us versus them mentality. What they call is Manichaean, right? This is Manichaean view of the world, that there's black and white, good and evil, and those people over there are evil, and we good over here, we righteous. So really, if anything, religion kind of introduced a form of immorality that we kind of see manifesting today, right? This us versus them thing. So if man predates all of that, because, for example, Christianity is like 2,000 years old, we know that Homo sapiens has been around now they're saying 200,000 years. So what are we doing 198,000 for those 198,000 years? Now most of us are polytheists, right? But most of us were farmers. So we weren't like out there raping and pillaging. There were certain groups that were doing that, right? But most of us were not doing that. Most of us were farmers. So that being said, my point is that morality predates religion. So humanity always had a moral compass even before religion became a factor, right? And if you look at monotheism, there's a lot of like dumb rules in it, right? Like, don't eat pork, or, you can't be around, a woman that has a period. So there's all these little stupid things that, that if you break, you're supposed to, you're going to get like some divine shit on you, right? So I may not be answering your question, but man has had that more moral compass before that. Me personally, I used to go by the golden rule. You remember the golden rule, which is actually not a Jesus thing, it's actually a Buddhist thing, and Buddhists are agnostic. That's neither here nor there. There's the principle of do unto others like you have them do unto you. That's the golden rule. It actually comes from Buddhism. I actually practice the platinum rule, which is treat others how they want to be treated. Meaning, if you come to my house and you like peanut butter sandwiches, I'm going to make you a peanut butter sandwich. I'm not going to make you a peanut butter jelly sandwich. I want a peanut butter jelly sandwich, but I'm going to get you a peanut butter sandwich because that's what you want, and I want you to be comfortable. And that's pretty much how I live my life, right? I follow most laws, right? I mean, I follow the laws. But what I'm saying is that you don't need religion or God to be moral. And I think that's something that we're told so that we don't have to question the church. We don't have to or whatever religion we came in. They don't want us to question it. So if they meet people that don't believe in their God or whatever, they're like, oh shit, like how you do that? Because you go to your religious organization, they're going to tell you that the people that practice XYZ are not really following the righteous path. So when you run into those people, you're like, wait a second, they're law-abiding citizens and they have great kids and they pay taxes, et cetera, et cetera. So we got to be real careful with that idea that you can't have a moral compass because you don't believe in a higher power. Hope that answers all y'all questions. I make this announcement with a heavy heart. Image Comics has released the final issue of my favorite comic book, Invincible. Issue number 144 came out last month. The end of all things. I've talked about it on the show, and I think there's actually a video of me talking about how Invincible was probably one of the top 5 comics of 2017 for me. But anyway, this is actually, and I got to go check the math on this. This is Robert Kirkman's first comic before he did The Walking Dead. And it's actually, again, one of my favorites. It'll probably go down. And shout out to DJ Ben Hameen of the Fan Bro Show, because he said it's going to go down as one of his top 10. And I'm going to say the same thing. And I recommend reading it. It was penciled mostly by Ryan Otley. He did most of the issues, and I think outside of Eric Larson, who does Savage Dragon, for Image, he's one of the few people that's been consistently on the same book. He's about to go do Spider-Man now over at Marvel. So shout out to Ryan Otley, who actually talks to people on Twitter. So shout out to you, bro. Anyway, it was a dope final issue. I cried. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna be the first to admit it. It was a much happier ending than I expected, because if you know Robert Kirkman, he loved killing his peoples off. He loved killing his characters off. He just loved doing that. With the quickness, compared to other comic book writers. I know Image Comics is known for being more grittier than Marvel or DC put together. And I know that, there's a lot of blood. So imagine, when you talk about Invincible, imagine Superman, right? Like Kryptonians, right? But imagine them being ultra violent. And that's what Invincible is, right? Because the main character, he is the offspring of a gentleman we call Omni-Man, who comes from a race called Viltrumites, and they are a race of superpowered beings that can survive in space and decide that, hey, why don't we just take over the universe because we're fit for that, right? And but Invincible, you got to read it. It's really dope. It's really dope. But just imagine if Clark Kent was a villain. Well, you know, his dad was a villain, and he came to Earth and had him as a kid and raised him up, and it's actually dope. But anyway, it's a very happy ending. I'm very satisfied with the ending because a lot of times there's some dope comic books out there and the ending is always like lackluster. For example, one of my favorite comic books is Ex Machina. Really dope. They only did 50 issues, and it was a dope comic book, and the last story arc of it was really dope, but the last issue was blah, right? Another dope comic book to check is Why the Last Man, which they're about to make into a Showtime series, I think. It's going to be a cable series. And that's by Vertigo. Vertigo makes dope stuff, but that's one of my favorites. Why the Last Man was just dope, but the ending was it was sad, and then like super duper lackluster, right? Like the second to last issue was really sad, and the last issue was like, what are y'all doing? But Invincible, Robert Kirkman ended it well. It's just a dope ending for the main character and his family, and there was just a lot of closure, and I think to me that's really dope. So thank you, Robert Kirkman. Salute to you. Man, appreciate another run on a dope comic book. I know I geeked out just a little bit too much. I can't remember who. Oh yeah, I was listening to the guys from the Marvel 616 podcast, M6P. Shout out to them, and my man Jared. Shout out to Jared, and they actually like impromptu did a top 10 MCU movies. Now, mind you, there are 18 MCU movies. I believe there are 16, and the reason why is because I think those first two Hulk movies were much to be desired, even though the second one with Ed Norton was actually dope, and it actually has Thunderbolt Ross in there, who actually ended up in the MCU universe. So they like to include those two in there. I don't. So to me, it's 16, but we're going to go with 18. And I just want to be clear, MCU, Marvel Cinematic Universe, are the movies that do not have the X-Men, Deadpool, Wolverine. They do not have the Fantastic Four. So the people that are going to be in it are, the Captain America movies, Black Panther, the Avengers movie, Guardians of the Galaxy, Iron Man movies, Doctor Strange. Did I say Ant-Man already? And the latest Spider-Man Homecoming. I don't include those two Hulk movies because I don't like it. So I'm going to rank them in ascending order. So I'm going to start at number 10. So let's get into that. Word. Okay, here we go. At number 10, I'm going to put Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Again, it wasn't as good as the first one, but I loved it. I love, again, that they really got into the outside universe from the Earth, because that's part of the Marvel comics that I like. I like the stuff that deals with the Kree and the Skrull, the Celestials, Ego, the Living Planet, et cetera, et cetera. So it kind of like expanded on that a little bit more. So I thought that was dope. I wish it had the Nova Corps in it some more, but I'm cool with what I got. So number 10 will be Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Number 9 will be Ant-Man. Now, I have to be honest with you. I don't like Hank Pym in the comic books. I really don't. I don't like him for several reasons. Not because he beat up on Janet Van Dyne, a.k.a. the Wasp. Not because of that. I just felt like, like powers-wise. And mind you, in the comic book, Ant-Man and the Wasp are the founding members of the Avengers. It's 5 founding members. And that is Thor, that is the Hulk, Iron Man, Ant-Man, and the Wasp. So that was the original founding members. I can see why Marvel was like, let's not put them in it. Let's see what happens. And so that Ant-Man was a big risk. But I do like Scott Lang. I do like Scott Lang in the comic book. So that's really dope. And to be honest, I don't think you can have Marvel Cinematic Universe without Pym particles, meaning the particles that Hank Pym uses to shrink things and make them bigger, I think. And that's part of the science in the regular Marvel comics. So I thought that was dope. So to see that in there, I liked how they made Hank Pym an older hero. And I like how they try to, they imply they're going to put the Wasp in the second one. So I thought that was dope. And Scott Lang, I like his character because he's a regular schmo guy. You know what I'm saying? And he gets caught up in some stuff, goes to jail, comes out, and he's trying to redeem himself. I like that story in the comics, and I like it in Marvel Cinematic Universe. Plus the guy that plays him, I really like that dude. So that comes in at number 9. People are going to get mad at me at this one, but Iron Man number 1 ranks at number 8. Iron Man is crucial in the Marvel Cinematic Universe because to me, in my opinion, Iron Man number 1 is actually what set off the Marvel Cinematic Universe more so than the Hulk movies. So I'm going to put that in at number 8. It's funny because when they said they were going to make Robert Downey play Tony Stark, I was completely against it. And it works. He pulls it off. I mean, not only does he pull it off, he knocks it out the park. So I'm going to go ahead and go with Iron Man number 1. Number 7 would be Avengers Age of Ultron. I like this for several reasons. It's just cool to see everybody back together again from Avengers number 1 and meet up. And then there were scenes in the movie that I just thought that were really dope. I liked how they expanded and they mentioned Wakanda, and you get to meet Claw before he becomes Claw, right? I think it was dope. My biggest gripe is that, again, Hank Pym is actually the one that actually creates Ultron in the comic book. They deviated from that, but I like it. I like it. The fight scenes were dope. I think it was really cool how they got together and they did their thing. They introduced Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. That was real slick, Marvel. I see what you were doing there because originally they were supposed to be the children of Magneto. I see how y'all did that there. That was real slick. So just for being slick, I put Avengers Age of Ultron as number 7. Number 6 would be Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. Man, like, my wife ain't really into this stuff, but she loved Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. And I think that if you could do that, if you could impress her, then the movie got to be dope. People are going to be kind of mad that I put it at number 6. But when you see my next top 5, you probably change your mind. Okay, here we're going to go. We're going to continue on with number 5, Thor Ragnarok. Man, did they really redeem the Thor trilogy with this one? I mean, wow. Like, wow. I did not see that coming. And then the battle between him and the Hulk. Wow. Like, I know people are going to be mad. Like, it should be up higher. But, man, whoo. Like, come on, man. This was dope. So that's all I can say about it. It was just dope. I'll watch it any time of the day. And I know it should be in the top 3, but nah, there's some other stuff I got for you. I got some bangers for you. Number 4 will be Captain America Civil War. I mean, come on. Don't get me wrong. I'm a comic book head. I'm a purist. And they didn't have everybody that I wanted in it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, Spider-Man didn't play a more prominent role like he did in the comic book version. Okay, all right, let me stop doing that, all right? I know my son is going to kill me, but let me stop doing that. Anyway, what can you not like about Captain America Civil War, right? You get to see some of your faves fight each other, fight it out, right? The fight scenes were dope. Ant-Man turning big was dope. Like, come on, man. Like, it was crazy. Like, just watching it all. Even just the scene where Stan Lee is like, Tony Stank, package for Tony Stank. Like, that was just worth the price of admission. That last fight scene between Iron Man and the Winter Soldier and Captain America, like, come on, man. That was it right there. That really brought me in. So definitely, like, love that joint. Number 3, Avengers number 1. This movie right here, I know I said I could do this with Thor, but with this movie, I could watch any time of the day. I think this is the movie that really showed the audience the vision that the Marvel Cinematic Universe had. Kevin Feige and all of them. It really showed us the vision. Like, this is going to work. Let me explain. Iron Man 1 was dope. Captain America 1, yeah. Thor number 1, yeah. Right? So it was kind of like, how we going to put all this together? You know, you had those 2 Hulk movies, so we didn't know what was going on. You know what I mean? Avengers number 1, it brings it all together and makes you hype for the upcoming movies, no matter whom or what. It just really said, this is how we're going to do it. It changed the game. It changed Hollywood. It made other studios look like, oh, what we going to do? You know, it put DC, DC's like, yo, y'all gotta fix it. You know what I mean? Like, and really, to be honest, they set a standard and, yo, no one's going to do it like that. And this movie right here, Avengers #1, really set it off. Also, they just have the dopest one-liners in it. So I love it. Battle New York. It was cool. It set up the idea for Civil War. It does all that, so again, it just really did its thing, right? Number 2, it's going to be controversy over this. I know. Number 2, Black Panther. Man, dope. I'm not going to lie. When I first watched it and then I watched it, I said, this is the best MCU movie. But then when I watched it the third time, I started seeing some of the flaws. Don't get me wrong. It's dope. No other Marvel Cinematic Universe is like the Black Panther. And I know that, Iron Man does his thing, Captain America does his thing, Thor does his thing. But really, they all kind of have like a particular formula that they run, their trilogies. But Black Panther had a lot more ground to cover. It did it well. Introduced a lot of dope characters. It's seated in the MCU. Because I feel like some of the Iron Man movies, like Iron Man 2 and Iron Man 3, particularly Iron Man 3, doesn't really seat itself in the MCU. Really, Thor #1 doesn't really sit itself in the MCU. Captain America #1 had a lot of issues, even though I like it. But it still wasn't kind of like until the end in the MCU. So Black Panther receded well in the MCU. I think it does it the best out of all of them, with the exception of Captain America Civil War. But the thing about Black Panther was in the third act, the scene between Killmonger and T'Challa left much to be desired. There was too much CGI. And I kind of felt like T'Challa didn't really get it in like he did, like, say, for example, in Civil War. He got it in Civil War. Like he was fighting like a madman in that joint. So I didn't see that in this movie, even though I love the other characters. So that's why I ranked it at number 2. Now, number 1. Y'all want me to wait for that? Let's do this. Let's wait. Here we go with number 1. I know y'all gonna be mad about this. The number 1 MCU movie for me, for Dan Trezoma here, where my Killa Tape At, is Captain America Winter Soldier. Yeah. And here's why, man. Like, and shout out to Tony Baker, for he did his top 10 and he put Winter Soldier up there. It wasn't number 1 for him. I know, spoiler alert, right? But the fight scenes in this were phenomenal. Like, it was just dope. Like, everybody got it in. Winter Soldier, Captain America, Falcon, Black Widow, everybody got it in. They had Batroc the Leaper in it. Like, when it came to choreography, it just set levels. I love the spy stuff, the political intrigue. I love Nick Fury's fight scene. And then they showed the collapse of S.H.I.E.L.D. and showed how Hydra really was behind all of that. And I think it set things up for the Civil War. And I think, the ramifications were felt throughout the MCU. It was definitely grounded in the MCU. I could go on and on. I try to emulate some of the fight scenes in it. They're very difficult to pull off. But that's why, to me, it's one of them. It really, 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 this is who Captain America is, right? It is anybody that embodies the Marvel Universe, period. It would be Captain America, right? When I think about Captain America, in the comic book, when it comes to the Winter Soldier story, the Civil War, Captain America dies. He was central to that entire story. He's important. And this Marvel Cinematic Universe finally did it because they couldn't do it with part 1, but part 2 just set it off, right? So, and I just love the political intrigue in it. I love Nick Fury. It really shows, and I hope that it really goes into the Secret Warrior stuff. I know the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show kind of got into a little bit, but I think it would be dope if we do it that way. People gonna be mad at me, and if you're mad at me, it's all love. This is my pick, it's not nobody else's. But the top 5 movies that I listed, I can watch over and over and over again. Captain America: Winter Soldier is that movie that I watch and I'll rewind scenes to go back. I'll watch and rewind, and I love. There's a scene where Captain America and the Falcon, he's kind of like, we don't do this agent stuff. We soldiers, we get it in. We go head to head. We don't do all that other stuff. And Black Widow she really sets the tone like, this is how we get down. This is our world, and this is how we do it. So I can go on and on about why I love it. But Captain America Winter Soldier is my favorite MCU movie. for several reasons. Yo, thank y'all for checking me out and loving me. I appreciate y'all. Peace. Man, it's been a minute since we've done a health segment, and this one, I don't even know why I overlooked this one, because this is something that a lot of us fail to do. Even myself, as healthy as I try to rock and pretend to be, right? Resting, getting rest. And I don't mean taking 15-minute naps. I mean, those are important, but I think naps are important, but I think getting rest. And I think it bothers me that, and it's a capitalist thing, right? It's a white supremacist capitalist patriarchy thing, where we say stuff like, sleep is the cousin of death, or we say stuff like, why you sleeping? I'm out here grinding, and we have this type mentality that if we not grinding, if we not out there doing mad work, then we not out here trying to be successful. And I think that is something that is unhealthy and not a good practice, right? This idea that we have to be out here working consistently and not getting enough sleep. We look at sleep like it's a shame, right? Like if you go to bed, I used to do this. I'm not even gonna lie. I'm guilty of this. If you went to bed at 10 o'clock, I looked at you like you was corny, like you was a square. And I think that is very unhealthy. It's a bad idea. Fun fact, I suffered from migraines for decades. And what happened was, doctors didn't know what to do. They used to prescribe all kinds of medication, which a lot of times doctors don't know what to do about migraines. There's a lot of research where they're like, we don't know what the fuck it is, right? But for me, and this is just for me, what it was lack of sleep. Because when I went to boot camp way back in 1990 in the Navy, I was getting like 4 hours sleep a night. I was functioning on 4 hours sleep a night, and it became a habit, a very bad habit at that. So from that point on, I was just getting 4 hours of sleep, and maybe I might get a nap in the middle of the day, 15 to 20 minute nap. But that's why I was getting those migraines, because my body needed that rest. And as soon as I went from 4 hours a night to 6 hours a night, I'm not lying to you, to the New Year's resolution, I said, I'm going to get 6 hours of sleep now. The migraines went away. Bam. And that's exactly what I was doing. But you need to get some rest. Your body needs rest. I highly recommend it. I know it sounds like really corny because, your folks usually, well, if your folks are decent, they used to give you a decent bedtime. And it's like, that's important. It's crucial. There's a reason for that. Your body needs to rest. While your body is sleeping, it's replenishing itself, right? It's getting rid of dead skin cells, getting rid of, waste and toxins while you're sleeping, right? And it's supposed to do that. That's what the function is for. Not just for your body to get like rest, but also to get rid of toxins and stuff. So it's important that you do as much of it. A lot of us do our growing at that time. You see children, they do their growing there. But again, your brain also needs rest, not just your physical body, but your brain. So try to get as much rest. I know some of us work jobs, some of us work 2 jobs, and it's difficult. I know it's a privileged thing. It literally is. That's why I said it's like a capitalist thing, because the people that grind the most, quote unquote, are the ones that are usually the working poor, and it sucks. And I know people that have 2 to 3 jobs, and they may get maybe 5 to 6 hours of sleep, but they're just consistently working. So sometimes that rest is not enough. So we have to really, really take care of ourselves in that aspect, because I've seen people's health deteriorate because they don't get enough rest. Your work production actually decreases. I can just go on and on about the risk of not getting enough rest. So please get enough rest. It's important. Try to get that time to not even just sleep, but also just the relaxation. Americans take the fewest vacation time than any other developed nation in the world. We work the most hours per week than any other developed nation in the world. And we have a lot of health problems. And I think a lot of that deals with, we don't get enough rest and relaxation, and we need to do that. So do that for me, man. Word.
This is a man's world, but it would be nothing without. This is a man's world.
Part 3, QVC, zip line McCarthy, heavy on the list. You blink my ice ring, John Lee Green, get that small thing. Part 3, QVC, zip line McCarthy.
Yo, I just realized that I haven't done this segment in a minute. How to approach women, and my bad, But anyway, a lot of cats have been asking me this question, and it really like bothers me that people ask me this question, because it demonstrates that a lot of people are not paying attention, right? So, you have the Me Too movement, that discussion. We're having that. We're having a discussion about harassment and unwanted advances, et cetera, et cetera. So I hear a lot of dudes ask me straight up, like face to face. I have a lot of dudes that ask me online, like, and some of the discussions that I've been in where they're like, I'm afraid to talk to women because I don't want them to think that I'm being, harassing them, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, yo, you're not paying attention. Like, they think that it's like a witch hunt. They think that like what's going on right now is if you walking down the street and you say hi to a woman, ooh, they're gonna like people come out with spears and arrest you and hang you and put you in a corner. First of all, let me just say this: no one's going to jail over a lot of this stuff, which is really unfortunate, right? And I'm not saying that we need to run our head, drag people to jail left and right. I didn't say that. There's some people that belong in jail, even though I'm against the prison industrial complex, right? I know I'm going off on a tangent, but a lot of these people are not going to jail. The people that accuse of this stuff, right? Russell Simmons, Harvey Weinstein might be, but we don't know yet, right? That's just up in the air. But I mean, so people are like, oh, when can I approach a woman, et cetera, et cetera. And again, I have to say this: you're not paying attention to the discussion, and I really need you to pay attention to the discussion. And I say this all the time, and I use this analogy consistently. If someone says to you, hey, what you're doing right now is not cool, or I don't feel safe, or I feel uncomfortable, you should stop immediately. Right? That's number one, right? That's number one. Number two, if you feel uncomfortable doing the same something, then maybe you need to stop doing it, right? It's kind of like, remember how you used to go to work and they always talk about the uniform policy, right? And then they'll say to you, well, if you have to question it and don't do it, then it's the same thing, right? That being said, let's say we're not having this conversation, right? If I go somewhere and I'm at a party or whatever and I approach a young woman and I say something to her and she doesn't say nothing back, it's clear that she's not interested, right? That's just like, you don't need anybody to come and tell you they're not interested. You don't need any signs, you don't need any lectures, you don't need a workshop, none of that. You need to go to a panel. You should know if I approach a young woman and she says, no, I'm good, then I leave her alone. It's plain and simple, right? So when you approach anybody, that's anybody in general, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, Jehovah's Witnesses, as overbearing as they are, as soon as you tell them I'm not interested, they're like, all right, cool, here's the pamphlet, come holler at us if you want. And they keep it moving. Even they know, right? As annoying they could be, they know. They know, like, okay, knock on your door, you say, yo, I'm not interested, they leave you alone. Same concept. It's like arithmetic, man. 2 + 2 = 4. Pay attention. You know what I mean? Just pay attention. If you're at a dinner party and all of y'all's talking and everything seems cool, and that woman that you're attracted to seems to like you, right? But when you approach her afterward and say, hey, can I get your number? She says, no, boom, she's not interested. Plain and simple. That's how it is. Leave it alone. Because once you go over that, then you being an ass. You know what I'm saying? So I hope that's clear and cut as dry. I know it's not as humorous as before, but that's how it is, and I'm sticking to it. Definitely the shout outs for this one. Number one, Tony Baker. Check out his YouTube channel. He's the one that gave me the idea for the top 10 MCU movies. So that's him. Also, my peoples from the M6P, Marvel 616 podcast. Check them out at M6P. They really dope. They talk about comic books, the actual comic books and stuff. So I love y'all for doing that. I met y'all several years ago, and to this day, y'all show me mad love. And definitely got to give a shout out to my man, Akebrado of Capoeira, Brazil, Los Angeles. He got me doing the Bananera challenge, the handstand challenge, the upside down challenge. Shout out to you. And shout out to everybody that's doing the 300 push-up challenge for the month of March. I'm doing it too, trying to get my build on, you know what I mean? So love y'all. Peace. So there you have it, folks. Another dope episode. Man, we in season 2, man. We're like almost done with season 2. No, not really. We're like coming over the hump, right? So real quick, I apologize because in the last 2 episodes, I did not put some segments. I wanted to focus on the review with me and B-Boy Sabi. So, again, you can find us on Stitcher, Google Play, that purple app, right? The purple app, not the orange stuff, the purple app. And you could also find us on SoundCloud. Please use the hashtag where my Killa Tape At. And Killa spelled Killa. You can hit me up on the Twitters, either at Omi's Podcast or at my SPOD cast, or at Dan Trezomi, that's DANTRESOMI. Please use the hashtag. Please show us some love. Again, thank y'all for listening, man. And we're going to do this hard, man. Word is bond. Peace.